Griffin, welcome to the cave.
I'm happy to be in this cave, this man cave of yours.
How are you, man? What's new?
It's great. This is the least manliest cave. I just saw the whole thing, the man cave. Mine has lilies and irises and pumpkins and flowers and
Nothing wrong with
this is
that.
the cave. Yeah, why not?
What else are you gonna do these days, right? Like you said earlier.
There's nothing else to do but buy flowers and talk to people. That's what we can do. Surviving.
So, man, yeah, you've been busy, and the listeners and viewers know you from recently from HBO Max as the flight attendant. You've done, which I can't wait to talk about that. You've also done other projects like Ballers, Dear White People, Dollum. You've been busy, my friend.
I've been a little bit busy, but that's how I like it to be. I don't like to be not busy because currently I'm not busy. I'm just raising children and chickens. So
So let's get to know a little bit about you. What age did you kind of had an idea this is what you wanted to get into? And but you've also done writing, directing, producing also. So
I don't remember a time in my life when I wasn't performing. So I don't remember an age. I just know my earliest memories, I was performing on my parents' coffee table. And I had two brothers. I was in the middle of two other boys, and they were my audience. And so I've always been performing. I don't think I actually started to take it seriously until I think my junior year in high school, when I found out, because another guy sitting next to me in choir got into Carnegie Mellon, which is a pretty great school for musical theater. And I didn't even know you could go to school for theater. I thought you had to go to school to like get a real job.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know that that was a possibility. And so once he got into Carnegie Mellon, I was like, well, I got to go to Carnegie Mellon. And that was the start of me realizing that I could make a career out of performance.
Wow. Was there like a specific, like even like a movie or TV show that you were watching one day and or somebody that you looked up to and you're like, yeah, I think this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I wanted to be on the Cosby Show. I was a child of the 80s. I saw all of those were when all the black sitcoms were on, and I was like, I want to be on the Cosby Show. And then there was a different world, and I was like, and then when I'm older, I'll be on a different world. So it was really, the Cosby Show was the first time that I saw a family that looked like my family on television. And so that was kind of I just wanted to be in that world, whatever that was. I wanted to do that.
Yeah. I remember that was Thursday nights. It was Cosby, Different World, and I forgot what came out. It might have been
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah.
Cheers. My dad watched Cheers, and he sent us upstairs to go to bed. But Cheers.
Yeah. I remember that. Wow.
I'm looking over to the side because I've got a bottle in a child's mouth.
So I also mentioned you also done directing, writing, and producing. How did that all happening while you were trying to get into the acting world?
Yeah, I think that these days trying to be a multi-hyphenate artist is the goal, because it's really hard to only have a career in one thing. If you can have a career as an actor, you're super lucky. You can have a career as a director, you're super lucky. Most of us are bouncing from in front of the camera, behind the scenes. So for me, I started directing. I was directing a lot of theater projects, and it's a completely different headspace, because when you're directing, you have your eye on the entire project, and when you're acting, you're just your eyes on your character. So I really have enjoyed the directing space because it lets me see the entirety of the story we're trying to tell, and it's also made me a better actor. Now when a director says, Griffin, can you do this, I don't fight him. I'm like, yep, let's try, because I realize.
That's right. So you mentioned all that. Like, what's your favorite out of all those between producing and directing and acting? Like, if you had to stick with one, also, what would it be?
I think my favorite is, it's so tough. It's either directing or acting. I think it has to do with like the lovely thing about being an actor is you get to go into a tunnel and you get to just focus on that story, and it's not your own story, it's somebody else's. You get to like, be a nerd and really dig in. And when you're a director, it's, I think, more stressful, right? Because you're looking at everybody, you're holding up the whole project. These days I'm interested. I really like the acting portion. It's been very good to me, and I enjoy diving into other people's stories.
Yeah. So what I was reading online when I was doing some research on you, I know you grew up in Pittsburgh. At what age did you move to LA, and what was one of the first things that you did out there?
So the first thing I left Pittsburgh after Carnegie Mellon. I graduated Carnegie Mellon, and I think I was 21 years old, and I moved to New York City. And I lived in New York for maybe 10 years,
Wow.
something around there. And then a lot of my classmates were living in LA and doing quite well. And I was always like, how are you all buying cars and buying houses? What the hell? Because in New York, you're just poor. You're
Right.
working all the time and you're all the time poor. And so I was looking at my friends in LA. I was like, what's happening? I need to go out there. And so I moved to LA really specifically to do television, because at the time, LA was the only spot for TV and New York was theater. So I think I moved to LA when I was probably 27 or 8.
Okay.
And I decided to sit tight and focus on my television career. So it takes a long time to be an overnight success. You know,
Yeah.
LA is like, it's an uphill climb. So I've been at the game for a very long time.
How many years total have you been at it now?
Oh God. Okay. So I just turned 39 on Christmas. So, I mean, technically I graduated when I was 21, but I went to drama school at 17. So do the math, a long time. And, you know, like most artists have always been artists. That's why I say I've been at it. I was acting when I was in elementary school. So forever, a lifetime.
Out of before the flight attendant, what was like one of your other favorite gigs that you had that you still sticks out to this day as a favorite one?
Well, I think that Dear White People changed the course of my career. I think I was always like doing, you know, I call myself a blue collar actor. I'm always auditioning. People don't offer me jobs. That is not how this works. I audition and fight for every job I get. But Dear White People changed the course of my career because it was a recurring that lasted for several episodes.
Yeah.
And so I really got to, it wasn't like a guest star when you just come on and you do one episode and you go away. I had 7 episodes to really develop a character. And I just found that process and the set life and the directors and the producers. First, it was a Black show. And so it was the first time I had been on set with a bunch of people that looked like me, that were talking like me. And so that in and of itself was really great. And then I just think I played a character named Deontay, and he was so wild and such a, I think, a standout character that I think it kind of put me on the map. So
how different was that character now compared to Shane?
Honestly, so different. And I'm actually really, every character teaches you something.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be so artsy fartsy, because if people are not actors, they're like, what are you talking about? Every character teaches you something. But it's more about, it's like every job teaches you something about the next job and the next job after that. And so that job, because that character was so loud and living so freely, it made me, Griffin, start to live louder and more freer. And so when I got to the flight attendant, I was more confident in Shane. I knew what I needed to do. Also, I had, you know, Kaley Cuoco and Rosie Perez and T.R. Knight and Zasha Mamet. These were names, people I've seen on TV. And you can go into work and start to shrink because you're like, oh my God, these are the giants. But I think because I had played a character that was such a scene stealer, I walked onto that set unafraid of Kaley and Rosie and Zasha.
Right.
You know, like I just felt like I belonged.
Yeah. How exciting was this project for you, the flight attendant?
By far the most exciting job of my career, mainly because I got the job, and 4 days later I had to fly from LA to New York to move to New York to start shooting. And then 2 weeks into New York, we flew to Thailand to start shooting in our overseas material. So we were like actually flying around the world, which was really amazing. And also, you know, the job, it combined a lot of the things that I love. It combined the traveling and the acting and the culture and also the queerness, because I was playing, you know, an openly gay professional on TV, which I think this was my first adult. I don't think I've ever played an adult on TV. Really? I normally play college kids. And obviously I'm not in college. So this is the first time I was like, oh, I'm an adult. I have a job.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. So the entire show was exciting. And also the energy when you're on a new series is very different than when you're stepping into season 4, you know? The energy was amazing and the cast was amazing and everyone, it was just an exciting time. And now that we're in a pandemic,
Right.
thank God we got to travel. Thank God I saw Bangkok. Thank God I saw Rome and New York, places that I'd love to go now, but I'm sitting in my house in my pajamas.
So I gotta know, before you went to audition for Shane, like when you read the script, what was your thoughts when you first read this? And then tell us about your audition.
I didn't read the script.
Really?
There is no script. That is not how this works. They did not give us a script. You have 2 or 3 scenes that you learn.
Right.
Because this show was so top secret, they did not want anyone to know. So when you're auditioning, they don't give you the script. I didn't know anything about Shane other than the 3 scenes that I had.
Wow.
And so, yeah, you're trying to piece it together based on the information inside of the scenes. So when I found out the entirety of Shane, I also didn't find that out until I got to New York. Once I had already gotten the job, and then we started, we were doing table reads and they were like, do you know what the secrets are? And I didn't know anything. So I signed on to do the show, still somewhat in the dark. Yeah.
So you didn't even know who was on the show?
I knew that Kaley was on the show and I knew that Rosie was on the show, but no, when I showed up to that first table read, I was like, really? Her? Oh, him? Oh, wow. It's like being in the first day of kindergarten. You're just meeting everybody. You don't know anything. Yeah.
When was this a self-tape or a live audition when you went?
No, it was a live audition. My final audition was a chemistry read with Kaley. There was a hallway full of other guys. And you go in one at a time and you're meeting Kaley and the producers are in, the director and the writers are all there. And so you walk in, it's a casting directors are there. It's a big room full of people. And I think I sat down in front of Kaley and instantly knew that we had chemistry. Some chemistry reads, you sit down, it's like a date. You sit down across the table and you're like, womp womp, no chemistry, I don't get you, you don't get me, bye.
Yeah.
And this one, we started talking and I was like, oh, we're friends. We feel like old friends. We were talking the same jokes, same humor, same approach. Kaley was very, very, very warm and also very, very, she's so silly. She's like so professional, but she's so silly. And I am the same way. And so we just started kikiing. We were just cracking up, so that was my final audition.
Wow. How would you describe Shane? And how do you prepare for a role like this?
I would describe Shane as super intelligent and stealthy. Shane has a secret, and I think it's I don't want to give it away, but it's a pretty big secret that alters the course of, himself in the show. So he's stealthy, he's smart, he's funny. He's intelligent, he's sexual, he's all the things that you want in a character. And look, I think the way that I prepared for him was every day that I walked into shoot, I just said to myself, do not shrink, because he doesn't shrink. It's very when you're an actor, you walk on a set, most people don't know how TV really works. There are hundreds of people around us. For a 2-person scene, there can be 100 people standing there. And so it's very easy to get nervous, which I do, and to shrink, which is very, possible. So anyways, I would say to myself, don't shrink. Pretend that these people are not here. And that was what I said to myself every day to just try to keep my confidence up and my humor alive.
Yeah. How close is this character to the book? Because the show is based off a novel also. Do you have any idea? Did you go back and read the book maybe?
Yeah. So we were encouraged when we got the job. I obviously had heard that it was a book. And we were told by the producers, the writers, directors, do not read the book. They did not want us to read the book because they didn't want us to get confused about who we were, because the characters in the book are not exactly the same as the characters that we play on the TV. And also all of the relationships and the reveals and the secrets are not the same. So when I stepped into the job, I did not read the book, and I intentionally stayed ignorant to that whole. I didn't want to know anything over there. I just wanted to know what was on the page.
Yeah. And you mentioned a secret about your character, which we won't spoil. Obviously, you know what it is. I know because I've seen it. Did you have any idea about that secret until in the beginning, or you didn't find out till like the last?
Well, we shot the show out of order. So we actually shot the finale, I think maybe where episode 4 would have been. If we had gone in sequential order, it would have been number 4. So we were in Rome. You know, there's a lot of drama in Rome. We went to Rome in January, and that was episode, I think, 4. So we shot the ending of the show, and that's kind of, we had a lot of conversations because they were still writing some of the episodes in between, and so I had to get really, really clear between episode 1 and 4, the finale, about who I was and what I was doing. And so we had a lot of conversations because we were shooting out of order about, if I'm this person, what do I need to say here in episode 2 to make it make sense for episode 8? And, you know, we were always, Kaley and I behind the scenes, chatting about where are we in space and time and how do we make this all make sense so that when you go back, we feel like, you know, we shot it all in order, like we lived it in order. So no, I didn't actually know the fullness of who I was when I signed on. And then I kind of was taking a lot of leaps of faith with our writers and just trusting that they knew where we were going, you know? It was Game of Thrones. I didn't know what was, I really didn't. We didn't know who was gonna live and die. I was like, is everyone alive in this episode? What happens?
Did you, what's your favorite Shane moment, scene, quote? One of my favorite quotes, before we even let you answer that, it was like, I was trying to remember it last night and I couldn't remember it. I even tried to Google search it. When you're at, we'll spoil this a little, when you're at the funeral and you're like, you brought me to C3's funeral or something like that. And I'm like, it was like a classic Shane.
Yes, I think the funeral episode is, I've just gotten every interview that I've done, everyone talks about the funeral. It was my personal favorite episode to shoot. Kaley and I spent many days in a big old mansion and cracking up and sleeping on the set and just like, you know, we were in it. But I think my favorite scene is with Michael, with an M. The guy, there's a cater waiter. I won't spoil it, but I had a great little improv scene with him. And then Kaley and I obviously had several juicy scenes in the funeral, and it was just a ton of fun to shoot.
You mentioned earlier the chemistry. Like, so how would you, because you've had a lot of scenes with her, you know, on the airplanes and then the different scenes in the episodes. What's your, like, how would you describe that chemistry?
I think that, you know, again, I say it's like a date because sometimes you have chemistry with people and sometimes you do not. And sometimes you have great chemistry with people. I've done shows where I've had great chemistry with my co-star, but offset, we barely spoke.
Yeah.
And what was really sweet about this experience was Kaley and I became friends offset. So we were hanging out off screen, and same with Rose and Zasha, like we are all actually friends. And so it kind of made the experience a lot sweeter because a lot of us live in LA and we were living in New York, you know, we were away from our spouses and our kids. And so I think that chemistry, what we were doing off screen, we decided to put on screen. When you're looking at me and Kaley, that's us. That's what we're doing.
That's awesome.
And so it was a lot of fun to just get to play and stay. Our set vibe was very, very light. It was lightness, and it was awesome.
Yeah. Out of all the places that you travel for the show, what's your favorite?
Well, I've now said that I'm Italian because I really believe in my heart that I am actually Italian, Roman. I've never I had been to Italy before, I had been to Milan, but I'd never been to Rome. And Rome was life-changing. The buildings, there's an ancient city in the middle of the city, the columns, the Colosseums, I said, what's happening? I've never seen the food, the hospitality, it was the fashion, it was incredible. So I'd like to go back to Rome and get fat. That's what I really want to do. Lots of drinking. Lots
Any
of
word?
eating.
Any word on season 2 yet?
I think we're definitely picked up for season 2, which is super exciting. I'm very excited to get back to work. And then I don't know when we start shooting. I think this whole COVID thing it's got everybody kind of, needing to stay safe and alive. And it's been tricky for artists to try to figure out how to make art in the middle of this madness. So I'm hoping we get back as soon as possible, but I think we're going to get a season 2 out before the end of the year.
Yeah. If you have any input, what do you want Shane to do happen in season 2? What would you like for him to see?
Well, here's what I really want. I want Shane to have a husband. I just think it's so good. Shouldn't he have a husband?
Yeah.
Season 1, it's boys everywhere. Maybe season 2, is there a wedding? Is it Erica Kane? Is there, what is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. So maybe a husband. I just want to get to know who he is off that airplane. I want to know what his house looks like, Is he single or does he have a family? I'm curious. I don't know the answer to that. I truly don't know.
Yeah.
So I would love to see Shane at home. I want to know who he is there.
Yeah. Out of all the cast members, is there somebody that you hope to have more scenes with next time around?
That's easy. I want to act with Zasha Mamet. I literally, what happens in TV is I shot all of my stuff. I never saw Zasha. I didn't see her at all. Not one day on set.
Wow.
We never worked together. I would only see her at a dinner or a party.
Yeah.
But I think she's so good on the show. I think she's so fantastic. And she is even more fantastic in life. So I just want to get to play with her on screen.
Yeah. We mentioned pandemic a few times. Was there any other projects that you got coming out that you filmed or did before the pandemic that you're ready to share with us?
Well, here's what I can say. I am doing a lot of writing in the pandemic, and I've been developing a show alongside Esther Dean, who many people know from Pitch Perfect, and also she's the writer of Katy Perry's Firework and Rihanna's Rude Boy. So we're developing a musical series together, which is really exciting. And I'm going to direct a piece, a film called The Amish Project, by a writer named Jessica Dickey. So the great thing about I also had a baby in the middle of the pandemic. So I've got a 5-month-old. That was a pandemic surprise. So yeah, I've been really busy trying to tell more stories and raise these children. That's my latest projects.
Griffin, lastly, how can the listeners find you on social media?
Yes, I'm Griffin's Thread on Instagram and Twitter.
Griffin, this was fun. Thank you for coming on.
You're the best. Thanks for having me.